Welcome back, MG fam, to the Master Series here on NBA 2K11. And last video you guys saw, we got kicked out of the playoffs, man. The Minnesota Timberwolves eliminated us, and they slid on to the Western Conference Finals to face the OKC Thunder, who swept both of their opponents in the first two rounds. And in the Eastern Conference Finals, you got the Philadelphia 76ers facing the Indiana Pacers. Philadelphia came in as the top seed. You know, they got Clay and Kyrie on that squad. They're looking like the favorites this year. And the Indiana Pacers, you know, they spent a lot of money early on in this series trying to build a championship team, but it seems like they struggle a lot in the postseason. This year, they got a chance at taking it all the way to the finals. And after simulating the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, we saw the Philadelphia 76ers winning a 7-game series against the Indiana Pacers. And the OKC Thunder ended up performing the gentleman's sweep against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the stage is set in the finals, where we will see the two best teams in the NBA face off. And game 1 goes to the 76ers, while game 2 goes to the Thunder. Game 3 went to the Thunder, as well as game 4. And game 5 goes to the Thunder, and they won their first NBA championship. Kevin Durant ended up finishing the playoffs with a 29.3 average, and he was the final MVP. The guy shot over 50% from the floor and 40% from 3 and 90% from the free throw strike. Average a double-double, and what makes this more interesting is that this is his contract year. Will the OKC Thunder re-up and give KD what he wants, or will he slide out of town after winning a championship? So now we're going to slide on to retirements, and you can see Memo wraps up his career in Miami after 13 years in the NBA. He will always have a special place here in Idaho because he was a part of the foundation of this franchise. The Heat tried to rebuild something after losing LeBron James, so they started adding a lot of older players, and you can see Karolinko finish his career there along with Haslam, and Dirk wrapped his career up as a Jazz, Jermaine O'Neal as a Pacer, Jason Terry as a Rocket, and Tim Duncan as a Spur. And we had 2 players inducted to the Hall of Fame this year. You knew it was going to be Dirk, who finished his career averaging over 22 points, and Tim Duncan as well. So now we're sliding on to our player progression. You guys can see the 2 players with the most improvement was Hines and Whiteside. Both of them seen 3-point ticks for their overall rating. You got Hines at an 84. His outside shooting has improved, his rebounding, and his IQ. So we have a few team options on the board. Julian Hines, he has an option of 2 years, and Elmo has his last team option available, and Devin Chapman with a 2-year team. So we ended up accepting all of those because we're trying to keep this young backcourt together. We may have to make some adjustments next year because Elmo Newman's contract year coming up, we know he's going to want some additional funds. And speaking of wanting some funds, the NBA free agency is set. We had some notable players decline their player option. The most impactful one was Kevin Durant declining his player option of $19 million to re-sign with the OKC Thunder. But for some reason, after winning the finals, he is out of there, man. Even after winning a championship, he wants out of OKC. And Carmelo Anthony wants out of Milwaukee. I'm not sure why he went there anyway, because you know they weren't going to build a championship team. The only reason he went to Milwaukee was for the money, because it seems like that franchise doesn't attract superstars. And Melo is leaving $24 million on the table wherever he goes. He's not going to get that. We also had some players who contract expired. Thaddeus Young being the most prominent guy. He is refusing to resign with us because he want to test his worth in the free agency. But we were able to resign his backup and buy Amute to a 3-year deal worth $6.73 million. We also resigned JJ Redick to a 1-year deal worth $1.29, and we ended up trading Hasheem Thabeet to the Miami Heat, and they're going to give us their first round pick of this year's draft. So speaking of the draft, we got the lottery in front of us, and you can see the Phoenix Suns have the highest chance at nabbing the first pick, followed by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Washington Wizards, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Dallas Mavericks. So after the draft lottery, you guys can see that Dallas, who had the 5th best odds to get the top pick, finished number 1. They have a chance at drafting one of the best talents the NBA's seen in a while. So now we're moving on to the NBA draft. The 2015 draft, we're going to see who will go first, and everyone already had their eyes on Trevor Miles, who ended up going to the Dallas Mavericks with the first pick. And the next pick goes to Brevin Sharp. The Wizards picked up a pretty good guard, and Portland ended up trading their third pick along with Greg Oden to the Cavaliers for Avery Bradley and Lazar Hayward. Make that make sense. And the Cavs picked up DJ Little, the shooting guard from Kansas. And the next pick went to the Phoenix Suns, who picked up Wang Win. So Wang Win will start his career out there in Phoenix. And then Cleveland ended up trading their fifth pick in Corey Eaton to the Dallas Mavericks for Jordan Lee and Dante Sloan. And with that pick, the Mavs signed Jonathan Cassell from Texas Tech. The guy is built like the Greek freak. He's 6'10", 232, and he plays the small forward position. And then you had the Spurs trading pick number 6 to the Magic. They gave up pick number 6 and Yarebko for Grant Vilma and Lou Williams. Man, they are shaking up the NBA this draft. The Bucks ended up taking the point guard Kiba from Ukraine, and the Rockets took Timothy Larson, the small forward from Wisconsin, and now we're on the board. And we're going to pick up this kid, Derrick Burke. He was scheduled to get drafted in the lottery, which is the top 14 picks. And his NBA comparison is Jason Terry. We always can use more shooters, man. They said he's almost unstoppable in clutch situations and gets the job done. So we're going to pick that kid up. And next, the Boston Celtics selected Wilson Gibbs, the small forward from Minnesota. And then the Hornets selected Charles Graham, the power forward from UNLV. The Utah Jazz selected Jamie McKnight, the small forward from Tulane. And Herbert Perkison from Northwestern, the point guard, goes to the Denver Nuggets. All right, so we fast forwarded to our pick here late in the first round. We ended up taking Julian Waters, a 6'8" power forward, because he seems like someone we can groom into a great power forward. You know we're gonna end up losing Thaddeus Young most likely. So having a young player planted there behind Mba Amute may help us out. All right, so we ended up fast forwarding the rest of the draft, and you guys can see the ratings here. Trevor Miles, the best player in the draft. He's an 80 overall, and the Mavericks got them a big man to replace Dirk. Finally, the Wizards, they took Brevin Sharp, 73 overall point guard. DJ Little, who went to the Cavs, he's a 73 overall shooting guard. And the Suns signed Wang Win, who's a 75 overall center. Jonathan Cassell goes to the Mavericks. He's a 74 overall small forward. And Bryce York ended up being a 73 overall. And Kiba, a 72 overall point guard. Timothy Larson, a 67 overall small forward. And Derrick Burke ended up being a 66 overall shooting guard. And Nicholas Frazier, 67, Wilson Gibbs, 64, Charles Graham, 65, Jamie McKnight, 64, and Herbert Perkison, a 59 overall. So after signing all of our draft picks, our roster ended up being worth $46.39 million, which allows us $16.10 million to work with. So after zooming past the free agency, we ended up signing one big name, man. Larry Sanders to a 5-year deal. Larry Sanders is a power forward who is a two-way player. He can get us some baskets on the inside as well as stopping people from finishing at the rim. And the Suns made the biggest splash by signing the biggest name in the market, Kevin Durant, to a 5-year deal worth $102. Kevin Durant will get to play with our boy Wayne Wynn, and I know they're going to have some fun out there. And the Knicks signed Sergey Tito to a 4-year deal. And Carmelo ended up going to the Heat. And Chris Bosh signed back with those boys. They gave him more money this time, I believe. And Paul Pierce got him a 1-year stint out there in Utah. And Thaddeus Young teams up with KD in Phoenix for 5 years. And we signed a backup point guard in Marcus Williams to a 2-year deal worth $6.4, and the Bucks got Hassan Williams. Hey, maybe he can jumpstart his career out there in Milwaukee. And the Suns also signed Clay Strong. Yo, they're loading this team up. Yo, this team has a lot of young talent in there, just steady putting some vets out there. And the Bucks signed Jalen Simmons to a 4-year deal, and Carlos Boozer heads to New York on a 1-year deal worth $10 million. And Wayne Stewart might jumpstart his career out there in Boston. He got a 4-year deal. And Randolph Gregory goes to the Suns for 3 years. The Suns are throwing that money around. They're trying to win this year. And the Trailblazers ended up signing Douglas Harlan to a 4-year deal. You guys remember Douglas out there in Sacramento coming off that bench. He might get his chance to start out there in Portland. And the Bulls signed Damon Childress one of the best young guards in the league, is going to team up with Kawhi and Derrick Rose. Not fair. Also, the Rockets signed Amari Stoudemire. Not so sure about that one. We'll see how long he stay there. And Lazaro Garcia, the talented young guard from the Nets, ended up going to the Knicks. So the Knicks backcourt is getting some pretty good talent. And the Kings signed Ramon Sessions because Delonte West couldn't do it for him last year. And the Spurs signed Mac Houston from the Pacers. Yo, the Spurs looking like they doing a little something right there. And the Suns got Douglas Little. The Suns are spending the money. And the Jazz signed Randy Rowley. That's a nice pickup for them. And the Trailblazers signed a Geofor, 4-year deal. They got him. And Fred Cannon, who played for the Timberwolves, ended up leaving to head to the Wizards. The Wizards got some big men on that squad this year, bro. And the Heat signed Wesley Matthews. You know they need a guard to add to Melo, Bosh, and Wade, but no center. And Rolando Washington ended up going to the Spurs. He was the top pick for the Wizards, and his career just didn't pan out. Everybody's calling him a bust, but this year he will have a chance to redeem himself out there in San Antonio. Now we sliding to look at our roster. You guys can see we have a nice young core. We have 5 players with an 80 overall or above, and the best player on our squad is Hines, yo. I'm surprised Hines jumped out in front of Newman, and he is the baller. He is the star. We have 2 stars, and we're trying to create a third one in Whiteside. Our bench looks like it's going to be pretty solid this year as well. We will miss the scoring output from Thaddeus Young, but I think we got enough to make another run. But like I always said, man, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to the channel, man. It's your boy McGruff, and I'm out of here. 1.